A couple months ago, I got an email or a text or something on my phone that looked very familiar, and I clicked the link, and now I'm getting like 100 spam calls a day. Big mistake. I need to figure out how to get rid of them. How does that apply to today's episode? Well, we're going to talk about internet security, but not just the security. We want to talk about how to trust and verify from the human side of security all the way through your IT side of security. So if security is an issue for you, or it's not top of mind, which it should be, you're going to want to check out today's show.
Welcome to the KeyHire Small Business Podcast, hosted by Harlock, creator of KeyHire Solutions, where small business owners learn how to build stronger teams, simplify growth, and scale confidently. Got feedback or topic ideas? Send us a text. If you're listening on a handheld device, tap the link in the show notes to message the show. To learn more about how KeyHire can help scale your business, visit keyhire.solutions. Connect with Corey on LinkedIn through the link in the show notes. Mention you're a listener, and he'll accept your request. And now, on with the show. Here's your host, Corey Harlock.
Our guest today is Robert Siciliano, calling in from Beantown, Boston, Mass. He's a creator of the Strategic Human Firewall. He's a security expert. He's a good guy hacker. Always nice to have those. And a PI. Best-selling author, featured on CNN, Fox News, and The Today Show. He delivers jargon-free straight talk to decode complex AI threats and empower everyday protection for mass audiences. Let's welcome Robert to the show.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Hey, man, how did I do with all that?
Siciliano. That's about right.
Siciliano.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think you're in competition for one of the best names we've had on the show to date.
I will take that. My girls have said that they're going to keep their last name when they get married.
It's very distinct, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So you've been around. You've done the media circuit. Been on CNN, Fox News, Today Show. Now those are three totally different outlets.
Oh, I've been on Howard Stern twice. So yeah.
Have you, for real?
Yeah.
I feel like you and Howard would click.
We did. And if you and I have a bunch of scotches or whiskeys, I could tell you what I actually did in the show, but not until then.
Yeah, let's do it one day. Next time I'm up in Boston.
You betcha.
Cool, man. All right. Well, hey, we're here to talk about security today. So, and we always like to start with the definition. So can you start with kind of what is the traditional definition, and then we can kind of transition into what your strategic human firewall definition is?
Sure. Well, I would say, security is systems in place, recognizing risk, being proactive. Security is truly 24/7, 365. Security never sleeps. And security is a journey. It's not a full-blown destination. You never fully arrive to security,
Right.
And personal security is violence and theft prevention in the physical world. And my belief is that all security is personal, like literally all security is personal. And that means, it's not just violence and theft prevention in the physical world. I mean, what's more personal than your identity, right?
Heck yeah.
And so security truly has evolved as we have evolved, as culture has evolved, as technology has evolved. And today, I don't know that consumers, employees for that matter, citizens in general, are any more advanced in regarding their own security as they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. But what truly is more advanced is the bad actors who have organized, and they treat fraud and crime as a business, whereas the rest of us don't want to think it's going to happen to me.
Such a great point that people are treating this as a business, and personal security, all this stuff is a business as well. I'm old, so I'm on Facebook, and my feed is full of people selling wallets that your credit cards can't be hacked, and all of these crazy, the EMFs that get transmitted by your Wi-Fi, how to protect yourself from that. I mean, it feels like we need to be protecting ourselves from almost everything these days.
Yeah. And most people don't truly take security seriously because it boils down to the fact that like security truly goes against our core beliefs, as weird as that sounds. And I'll explain. So we are a what is considered an interdependent species. We depend on each other for our survival. Man needs woman, woman needs man. Essentially, that boils down to procreate, right? To further the species, for the next generation. And the basis of that trust means, we give the benefit of the doubt all day, every day, right? And we want to and need to trust, okay? And security is about not trusting others. It's about predators and thieves. It's about sociopaths and psychopaths. It's about, hardcore narcissists that mean to do us harm. And nobody wants to ever think or believe that they would be targeted by one of these, bad actors. And so we kind of like put the covers over our head, bury our head in the sands and say, it can't or won't happen to me. We function at a level of denial, and essentially we do nothing about it. So when the emails come in, the phone calls come in, the text messages come in that are scammy in their nature, we don't quite know what to do, the majority of us. Many a times they're just annoying. We might delete them, but there's a significant part of the population that reacts to them and responds to them, and they get scammed.
They're so tricky though. Sometimes they're so good. You think it's coming. And the first thing I always do is look at the URL, like, where's it coming from? And sometimes you're right there, and then I'll Google or I'll go on chat and say, hey, is this a scam? They're like, yeah, don't click that. Or it's crazy how good they're getting at someone spoofed my email. On Monday, I got an email from someone saying they were in my payroll department and they needed me to confirm hours. And there's a spreadsheet and it was their name at my domain.
Mm. Yeah. It's pretty awesome and awful what's going on right now.
100%.
It's what they do is awesome. It's awful, but it's awesome. Right?
It's if they could only, if they could only use their powers for good instead of evil.
But the reality of that is they're sociopaths and psychopaths, and they don't experience empathy, sympathy, guilt, or remorse. They truly have no shame. They care less about helping anybody else. They would prefer to see a mother and father homeless on the street, and they have their bank account in their control. Like, that's what they want,
Yeah, it's nuts.
And so with AI, artificial intelligence at this point has allowed the bad actors to scale their operations in such a way where you can have one human manipulating thousands of people at the same time, grooming them to eventually open up their bank accounts and invest in cryptocurrencies and so forth. And that's getting worse. It's not getting any better due to the fact that companies aren't generally effectively training their employees on what to do other than phishing simulation training, which is only solving a very small portion of the problem. And then the general public, like I keep saying, doesn't generally recognize risk effectively because they don't want to think it's going to happen to them.
100%. I agree with everything you said. Is me in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah. So what I've been doing now for the past 30 years is engaging, employees on risk management. Okay. And I've come up with this, methodology over decades of research and just like speaking to people like you, every day. And my presentations are fully interactive. Like I get in front of a live audience and we have a conversation.
Right.
It's not me barking out orders at an audience, telling them what to do and hitting them over the head with a hammer and saying, do this, don't do that, or else these bad things are going to happen to you.
Right.
Which is so counterproductive, which most security awareness training is. And so with recognizing that we are an interdependent species, I've come to the conclusion that we all suffer from what I call the human blind spot. Okay. So the human blind spot essentially is like our psychological and biological need to trust each other. Like I've said, right? We want to and need to trust the familiar. And it is this cognitive gap where biological trust overrides like just general suspicion, digital suspicion, AI, deep fakes, voice cloning, right? Scammy phone calls and emails, leaving the door wide open to all kinds of deception, right? Think of it like as this biological default to trust and the psychological shortcuts or the heuristics that criminals use to bypass our human logic, right? and they tap into our biology. Think of like biological impulse versus like intellectual understanding, which is the internal conflict between our evolved survival instincts and our modern knowledge or lack of knowledge of digital or physical risks. And that prevents us from effectively reacting intellectually. Our biology prevents us from reacting intellectually when the phone calls, emails, and text messages come in with a demand or whatever the case might be that has what we call manufactured urgency, which gets us to like click or respond quickly, but getting us into trouble.
So I think you're leaning in now to your strategic human firewall. So you've outlined kind of the human nature, the traditional definition of security. How is the strategic human firewall different?
So like, you know how when you're already like looking at the URL and you're doing a little search, a Google search, and you're like kind of a little suspicious and you're paying attention?
Yeah.
Well, that is the makings of the strategic human firewall. It's literally just stopping what you're doing and not reacting, but like investigating, you know? And lots of people have that, but more of us don't than do. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the strategic human firewall basically blocks deception. It's a form of situational awareness. Like situational awareness in the physical world is like you're walking down the street, you're looking ahead of you, you're looking to the right, looking to the left, knowing what's going on behind you. Situational awareness when you're driving, same thing. Situational awareness when you get that phone call, text, or email is, okay, what is the motivation behind this text message? What is this person trying to get out of me? Like what's happening right now? You know? And so you're aware of the situation you're in. And the whole point and purpose of it is to block deception. It's a proactive governance. It's a mindset that turns everyday people or employees, citizens, consumers from essentially passive targets, which most of us are, into active detection layers. Like you mentioned, you're looking for what's going on here, right? Mm. It's the shift from like, I trust what I see. It's not going to happen to me. Like biologically, like people are good and they're worthy of my trust. I trust what I see. Two, I verify everything. Like I don't just like do what I'm told. I'm going to see what's going on here. And I call that like beyond the strategic human firewall. It's truly security appreciation is what it boils down to. So most training today is security awareness or security awareness training. So the shift from awareness, which is knowing intellectually in your head, to appreciation, which is caring, which truly I think is in your heart, you know? And when employees appreciate how security protects their own lives personally, behavior changes permanently. I call this the security appreciation gap. It's that chasm between the employee's intellectual understanding of risk, which again is awareness, and the emotional commitment to act on that knowledge, which again is appreciation. And ultimately, they achieve what I call the kitchen table effect, which is like this multiplier effect where successful training ends with the employee teaching the concepts to their loved ones, to their family, you know, at home, at the kitchen table. Cementing those lessons for life. Like you truly are bringing the information home and getting, hey, this is what I learned at work today. And like, we need to know this because this is important to us.
Right.
Whereas most training, like it's compliance-based phishing simulation, do this, don't do that, or else. You do it once a year during Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which to me is so stupid. Or you might provide like, you know, micro e-learning, which is better. But in general, like we treat cybersecurity training as like a regulatory, you know, requirement that doesn't necessarily change behavior.
Do you think that is like most training, which is designed to teach to the lowest common denominator?
Actually, I don't know that it's actually teaching to the lowest common denominator at all. I think it's actually only teaching to a certain level of relatively tech savvy employees that get it. And the rest of them really don't get it. They don't really care about it. They don't even truly think it's even their responsibility to begin with. You know, I think that phishing simulation training, which has really only been around for like 15 years, like some of the very first companies that were engaged in that, building those businesses, like reached out to me at the very beginning to review their, products and services. And I saw, something good there. And eventually all those companies got bought up by a very few companies. And that by default became like the de facto regulatory compliance, do this or else you're not compliant in your business based on the various laws that were created. And it became the easiest check the box thing. And it's still not really reaching everybody, because I see people all the time getting fired that like are really smart people, but they're just not tuned in to security because they're not locking the doors to their own home. They don't have a home security system at all. Like they're not thinking about risk ever, because it's just not part of their DNA. It's not part of their makeup. And they truly don't want to think or believe that bad things are going to happen to them. And there's a little bit of a process to that. Like there's a little bit of an understanding of why we're like that. And I'm happy to dive into that if you want.
Well, so a couple of questions. The first one is, I'll ask both of them and you can answer however, in whatever order you want. The people that security isn't innate to them, or they don't think about it, can they make the shift?
100%.
And the second one was, I know for me, I'm generally I trust first and then allow people to lose the trust. My wife is the exact opposite, so that's why we're a good team, because she trusts no one until you earn it. But even when those messages come in, most of the time, my spidey senses tingle.
Okay.
But there is the odd time where I'm in a flow or in a certain state of mind where I just am, sure, that sounds good. Click. What happens there? Is there something that's happening there? Say I'm scrolling on, I already mentioned Facebook because I'm old, and I'm in this thing of like clicking, scroll, click, and something comes on my phone. Oh, it's a text. Oh, that looks cool. Click. And it feels like I forget to be curious, or my spidey senses aren't working at that moment. Am I making myself clear? Does that make any sense at all?
You are, and you're like 90% of the population. And frankly, I do some of the same things. Okay. Because I'm human too.
Right.
And we trust by default. That's where the human blind spot comes in. But there is a fundamental aversion, or what prevents us from recognizing and managing risk. And that is, it goes a bit beyond the human blind spot. Okay. And it comes down to, denial. And it also comes down to our cultural misunderstandings of how security has been represented our entire lives. Okay. So when I do a training, it's a dialogue. And in that process, I'm asking questions. Okay. And they're asking me questions, and we're having this dialogue. Right. And in those questions, like I ask a lot of qualifying questions that are designed to target their belief systems. And that's what this boils down to. Right. Because what we believe security is kind of like unfortunate. Right. So I ask questions like, okay, so how many of you are using a different passcode across all your critical accounts? And I generally get like 15% of the room is using a different passcode across their critical accounts.
I would qualify for that.
Yeah, that's a lot of people, 85%. Well, I'm sorry, that's 15%. That's good.
Right.
Like, and 85% aren't.
Right, they're using password 123.
Which is amazing to me in 2026. Okay. 30 years, nothing has changed. Okay. And then I ask, how many of you are using two-factor authentication? If I get 20% of the room to raise their hand, that's a lot, which means 80% aren't. And that's two-factor authentication in all aspects of both business and personal life.
Right. And I use it, and it's a pain in the ass, but every time, at least you think to yourself, it works.
You're better off than not. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, like, how many of you are using a password manager? And it's generally less than 10%. Because the only way to facilitate using a different passcode across all your multiple accounts is truly to have a password manager, unless you're a savant of some sort, or you're copying and pasting all day long. The most efficient and effective way is a password manager. Okay, so 80 to 90+% are engaged in the worst of the worst, cyber hygiene when it comes to access control, password management, two-factor authentication. And then the next question, and then I show them that, did you know that there's about 15 billion compromised passwords on the dark web? 15 billion, which is true. And I literally show them that. And they're like, whoa, I didn't know that. So that's why I've got and so if you're using the same passcode across multiple accounts and any one of those accounts are compromised, now the bad guys, they don't hack you. They just log in at this point. That's where we're at. Okay. Now they're like, whoa, I didn't know that. Now I want to know more. And then as I ask them more questions regarding their physical security, and here's where we get to the denial thing. I say, because how many of you have a home security system? If I get 15% of the room, that's a lot, which means 85% don't have a home security system. And then I ask, okay, so why don't you have a home security system? Reminder, all security is personal. It all boils down to your physical being physically attacked or your identity being compromised. How many of you have a home security system? 15%. Why don't you have it? And the answers are generally we don't have a home security system because we have insurance. As if insurance is going to protect you at 3 a.m. Okay. And then the next answer is, we don't have a home security system because my husband says if they're going to break in, they're going to break in. There's nothing we can do. Which I would divorce that man, to be frank with you. Okay. Because if I'm a dad that says to my daughters, hey, if we get broken into 3 a.m., you're kind of on your own, because what are we going to do?
Right.
Hello, that's not how we roll. Okay. So he's justifying not engaging in security practices using fatalism, which
do you ever hear the excuse, well, we live in a good neighborhood?
So when you're watching the 6 o'clock news and something bad happens in the neighborhood and the reporter goes into the neighborhood and she knocks on the neighbor's door.
You've never had anything like this happen before.
They say it every single time.
Yeah.
Because we want to believe that we live in the safest neighborhood in the planet. And I don't bring that to people's attention because you live in a bad neighborhood. I bring it because we all want to believe that, but bad things do happen eventually. Right?
And just to connect dots, you said it's an enterprise for many of these people. So they're looking for the neighborhoods where people aren't suspecting and don't have their guard up and maybe higher net worth. They have nicer things.
It's just math. It's just the physics of it.
So eventually your neighborhood will come up in the list of, hey, let's try this neighborhood.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. And so the final answer when I asked that question about why you don't have the home security system is, the most common answer is, we don't have a home security system because I don't want to live like that.
Right.
And I say, well, what does that actually mean? And they say, well, I don't want to live in fear. I don't want to have to worry. As if acknowledging risk in the installation of a home security system is going to make you afraid. It's going to make you fearful. That's how not well thought out we are in these regards. Okay. And so I follow that up with, okay, so I'm a guy that has, and this is true, I have 20 plus security cameras. Okay. Inside, outside my home in total. I've been collecting security cameras for 20 years. Okay. So when I tell people this, and my next question is, okay, so what might you think about somebody who has 20 plus security cameras? What's my disposition, my belief system? I wake up out of bed every day with 20 security cameras. What might you think I am? This guy must be what?
Cautious.
Good answer. What else?
Oh, you're looking for paranoid, I would assume, or afraid.
Yeah, well, that's the answer that most people give me. Literally, in 100 people in the room go paranoid all at the same time, and they laugh. They think it's funny. They look at each other because they say, "Oh, we just called him paranoid," And the reality is, the medical communities diagnose paranoia as the unjustified belief that you are being persecuted by others. And people who are diagnosed paranoid, like literally do believe that others are out to get them.
Right.
It is a very unfortunate disease of the mind.
Sure.
And it truly is worry and fear and looking over your shoulder. Paranoia is, I think, truly one of the worst mental
Yeah.
health disorders that a person can have.
Cannot be fun.
And I have a first cousin who has that. And the poor girl, I think right now, is living in her car because it's like the only place that she feels safe, you know?
Crazy.
And I'm not like disparaging anybody. Like this is just the world that we live in. The problem here when it comes to security is that we have this unfortunate view that security is about paranoia, and those who engage in it must be afraid. Why would you ever want security in your life if you think that's what it's about?
Right.
And so as a result of that, instead of being paranoid, we function in denial. It can't happen to me. And denial is this wonderful psychological characteristic that we possess. And we all, every one of us, to a degree, functions in denial. All of us, every single one of us, to a degree, depending on what that denial is in our life. Like we should probably never eat sugar ever again for the rest of our lives because it's so bad for you.
Right.
But we do because it's wonderful. We are in denial that it's doing something bad.
100%. Yeah.
Whatever. Right.
I agree with you. That's a whole other episode.
Right.
So I'll share a story with you. The house I'm sitting in right now, we moved in here in 2018. So 9 years ago. And it has a heavy duty security system. And all the previous houses, the two previous houses we lived in Texas did not have security. And so we moved in, I called the security company just to kind of teach me this security system. And he said, you got to buy you over there. It's a nice neighborhood. This is the kind of neighborhood people would target. Easy escape into the bayou. And you know, it's a nice neighborhood. And I resisted using the alarm. And the first time I used it, Robert, one of the doors upstairs wasn't closed properly and the wind blew it open and the alarm went off. And I almost had a heart attack. But we figured that out pretty quickly. And then I stopped. I didn't want to use it again because I'm like, it's causing me more stress to use it than not. So eventually we started using it. And what I really enjoy about it is it helps me sleep for this reason.
Me too.
If I hear a noise, we have a panel right in our bedroom and I can see it from my bed.
Yeah.
If I hear a noise in the house and it wakes me up, I look at the panel, and if the red light's on, I go, if it was a problem, that thing would be screaming right now, and I roll over and go back to bed. Yeah. When it was off and I heard a noise in the house, I would go, oh, what's that? What's going on? I got to stay awake, see if there's any more noises. And so I've learned the power of the alarm system. But it was a learned behavior for us. And I struggled with it in the beginning. And for all of the reasons that you outlined, and then it went off the first night I said it. And it was just like, this is a pain in the ass. I can't go through this every night. Now I won't be able to sleep wondering if it's going to go off randomly on me again.
Security is truly a learned behavior because it goes against our core beliefs.
Yeah.
You know, like not trusting others is actually a learned behavior too. You know, like not trusting others means at some point in your life, somebody hurt or harmed you in some way that made you believe or recognize that, you know, not everybody is worthy of my trust. And
right.
Those lessons that happen often early in life don't necessarily stick with us effectively. And sometimes they lead to fear and worry. Right. Which not necessarily putting, you know, systems and strategies in place to manage and reduce risk. And so today, here we are, you know, we're still, when it comes to cybersecurity, we're not doing what's necessary to manage that risk in our personal and or professional lives. And I'm here to say, this is pretty easy. And you don't have to actually be victimized to do something about it.
Right. Or one of your employees is going to do something silly.
Yeah. And it's really not about like this massive or significant overhaul at all. Like, for example, like you still should do your phishing simulation training, you know, but what the phishing simulation training and compliance training is, it's like putting the cart before the horse, you know, and you're not really like addressing the human, which, you know, is like I'm worried. I am concerned. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know how to protect my own identity. I don't know how to
Right.
manage my child's digital footprint. I don't even like lock the doors to my home or have a home security system because I'm worried about, if it goes off, the alarm goes off, what should I do? Like, nobody's
Right.
had those conversations
Right.
yet.
So, Robert, I'm a slow learner and I just figured it out. What you're saying is we need to, as a business owner, we could have an employee in there who's totally avoidant of wanting to believe that there's risk or danger. So if I have an employee at home, not only do they not have an alarm system, they don't even lock their door because they live in a world where they need to trust people. They're bringing that same belief system into my company. So when that prince from Nigeria sends the email asking for money, they could go, "Oh, this sounds like a nice fella," and click that button because they're trusting that that is real. And so what you're saying is we need to, before we even get into any of this phishing training, we need to address the individuals and find out who we're dealing with and what their blind spots are. Am I correct?
That's 100% correct.
Okay.
And
It took me a minute, but I've never claimed to be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but it took me a minute.
and on top of all that, and you said it absolutely perfectly. That human is they just need a little more attention. And it's not just that one human. There are lots of those one humans, right?
Sure. Yeah. Apparently, they're what you're saying is in all of the show of hands you've done, they are the majority of people.
The majority. Okay.
And so a business owner who doesn't recognize this or want to recognize this, because their assumption is, oh, my people will do the right thing. They would never click that link because it's so obviously a phishing email, for example, and I'm just as a basic example. But that's not the right assumption. Because they're trusting that their people are going to do the right thing too. And so what they need to do is come from okay, we need to all go in and get on the same page and get back to this. It's okay to trust, but we need to add the additional step of verifying.
And we need to all get on the same page of what security actually is versus what it isn't. Our belief systems need to be the same in regards to security is a good thing versus like this worry and fear thing.
Right. Yeah. And that's a weird transition to, it's almost changing the philosophy or changing a mindset. That's the cornerstone. If you can make that transition, everything else becomes easier. Yeah. I'm assuming
everybody becomes a strategic human firewall because now we anticipate.
I brought that around for you, put a nice bow on it for you. It was perfect.
So where we are now is AI, right? And AI has stripped away the clumsy red flags of traditional fraud, right? Many of them. In the past, criminals relied on, what we call blunder force phishing, which essentially is mass blasting emails riddled with scammer grammar. Today,
and hoping one person is in the right state of mind to click that link.
Yeah. And AI now allows for high precision impersonation at scale, right?
Yeah.
And criminals are using, what we call neural puppetry to create perfect lies by scraping just seconds of audio and video from social media. They're using voice cloning and deep fakes to impersonate a trusted source, like a spouse, a CEO, an attorney, with, I would argue, 100% accuracy at this point. And this weaponizes our biological default to trust, making the deception 100% human.
But does it not also, if you got a message that spoofed someone you knew, their voice perfectly, and it was a horrible message, you're going to go into full fight or flight. You're going to get an adrenaline response to that if it's truly a bad thing, like a really bad thing, or they're accusing you or saying your spouse has been accused of.
Yeah.
And that gets in the way of clear thinking as well, because when fight or flight kicks in, everything zones in, and you're just focused on dealing with that one issue, and your logic goes out the window to a degree.
That's the human blind spot. That's when your biology kicks in and confuses you. And that's where becoming the strategic human firewall by recognizing risk and seeing security as a good thing comes into play. And one of the permanent governance mindsets of the strategic human firewall is what we call the AAA protocol. Okay. So when that phone call, email, text message comes in, we stop what we're doing. And the AAA protocol is analyze, authenticate, and act. Essentially, it's, analyze, recognize the manufactured urgency of that inbound communication, the screaming in the background, that text message that says, if you don't do this now, you're not going to get access to your account, or you're going to lose all your money, or whatever the case might be. The moment that urgency affects you biologically, whoa, AAA protocol, what's happening here? Okay. If they request secrecy or immediate action, you stop. Your brain has moved into an emotional reaction. Take a breath, move back, and engage in analytical thinking. And then the next thing is, authenticate, identify whatever that, digital risk or digital mask might be. Treat every single digital communication, phone call, text, email, as a potential vulnerability, as a breach. Look for the technical and biological red flags of a deep fake, of a voice clone, of that urgency. It's just a matter of recognizing that this is an option. Most people don't even know that this is an option, right? And then ultimately you act on what that inbound communication is. And that act generally should be executing what might be considered an out of band verification. Okay, so you mentioned the screaming in the background of a loved one. So never use the contact information provided in that message, whether it's an email or even the caller ID of that phone number. Hang up and call the person back on a trusted, pre-validated phone number that is good, whether it's from an email or a text message or even a phone call you received, because caller ID spoofing is a real thing, which is easy to do. So the AAA protocol, again, it is simply analyze, authenticate, and act. Once people know that this is truly even an option in their life, that this is something that they would even have to do, now they at least they're forewarned, and therefore they're forearmed. And so if and when this was ever to happen, my daughter's being kidnapped. Is my daughter really being kidnapped? Okay, AAA. And go from there. But again, this isn't even something that's ever even been introduced to 99% of the world's population.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's perfectly logical, but I've never heard it all put together like this, which I think is super effective.
Well, thank you.
So if we were to wrap up and I were to say, if there's a business owner out there who's thinking, okay, this makes sense to me, the threat is real, it's only a matter of time. What, other than calling you, and we'll tell them how to reach out to you at the end here, but what would be your 3 to 5 pieces of advice you could give them to start pushing this in the right direction to make sure they're creating the strategic human firewall or protecting their business a little more?
I don't know that there's ever been a better time to do this. And the reason is because most organizations have some form of an all hands on event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where everybody gets it done. Okay.
Yeah.
And I actually think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity here. AI and deep fakes and voice cloning, all of this stuff has really changed the game in regards to what cybersecurity is now. And this is stuff of 007, the Minority Report, Tom Cruise Mission Impossible stuff. AI deep fakes, this is Hollywood level cybersecurity.
But it's common now. It's easy to do.
And it's in it, and the whole conception of it is awesome to talk about. It's a wonderful story to tell. Okay.
Right.
And I think it's a perfect opportunity to engage an audience in security awareness because it's fun, it's interesting, it's way more than security. This is sci-fi stuff that grabs people's attention.
Right.
And so if you come from it from that perspective as a leader, okay, and present it from that perspective, and considering that all security is personal to you first, to your loved ones, to the person who handles your budget for your security training, and for your employees, and looking at it from that perspective, everybody in our life, you, your boss, your employees, all has somebody who is clueless with this stuff. Like your mom can't stop clicking links. Your dad can't stop. Your dad can't stop responding to pop-ups that look like they're coming from Apple. That says you've got a problem with your Apple computer. Call this phone number.
Your phone is infected. Yeah.
Yeah, we've all got people in our life that are like that. Okay, everybody does. Okay, and so if you present it from that perspective to those in leadership at a leadership level that are responsible for executing these types of events, you say, yeah, and that's all of our employees too. Like many of them are that like relatively vulnerable in that regard. You know, they're being scammed left and right, and making it personal means making it personal, like that your widowed sister is being slammed by romance scams and so forth, and how they're vulnerable, and how those decision makers like can point that out in their own lives and have that conversation, that dialogue. And once we get to that point and reintroduce, can you believe it, empathy into the corporate environment? Can you imagine that happening again? Empathy. Like, remember leadership actually engaged in empathy at one point in time?
That's a whole other episode, Robert.
Like, wouldn't that be wonderful? Like, actually sit down and talk to your coworkers and employees the same way like you might talk to your family, like with care and concern. Remember that back in the day? What was it like? I don't know, 10 years ago? Anyways, it would be amazing, right? And people would be like, oh, like I've always wanted to know about this. Now I have questions. Let's talk about it because this has been important to me my entire life. I've just never had an opportunity to engage an actual human in this conversation that actually had a clue about it. And I would say that the majority of leadership in companies have a clue about it. They just don't know how to effectively communicate it. And this is how you communicate it.
Very cool. Amazing. Great information. I mean, I love the way you tie it together and make it just because I think people understand bits and pieces of it, but it's not enough of the pie. It's like a small percentage of it. So it's not enough to really act on or understand how it all ties together. So I really appreciate the way you're able to make it kind of flow and make sense. And starting with the individual, it's really, really good information. Robert, if people want to reach out to you and learn more or get you to come in or get some of your material to learn more about the strategic human firewall, how can we reach you?
Well, certainly Google Robert Siciliano, Siciliano. I'm all over the socials. LinkedIn's a good place to find me. I'm always writing really good content to keep y'all up to speed. And then my website, of course, is protectnowllc.com, protectnowllc.com.
Right there on the screen. So reach out to Robert and he will get you straight and get you safe. Hey, man, I appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. There you go. Robert Siciliano from Boston, Mass. Awesome, awesome information. I hope you took something away from it. I know I did. Before I wrap up, if you like what you're hearing, follow us, especially if you're on Spotify or Apple, wherever you're listening to the podcast. We're trying to spread the word and help small business owners, and you don't understand how valuable those follows are for the algorithm to help us get out there and have other people see the podcast. So one small favor, please just hit the follow button. Hope you enjoyed the show today. My name is Corey Harlock. I've been your host. And until next time, stop grinding, start growing.